Chimoji is my name, and I represent Enugu North and South Federal Constituency of Enugu State. Honorable colleagues, this bill comes at a very important moment in our history. As a nation, it comes at a time when we are forced by circumstances to look inwards.
Can you move that? Can you move for the consideration? It will be seconded before you take the arguments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the bill for an act establishing Nigeria Research and Innovation Trust Fund be read the second time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder?
Speaker and honorable colleagues, this bill comes at a very important moment in our history as a nation. It comes at a time when we are forced by circumstances to look inwards and find means to enhance our productivity. Today, it is a known fact that as a nation, we must learn to produce and cease from being a consumption nation. Today, it is either we innovate or perish. This, Mr. Speaker, is what this bill is all about: creating an organization with the resources and skill set to help Nigeria find and exploit our innovation. The objectives of this bill are to, one, establish a research and innovation tax dedicated to the commercialization of research findings in Nigeria in such a way that the local industry is not hurt, but rather enhanced. To establish the Nigeria Research and Innovation Trust Fund, which shall be responsible for imposing, managing, and disbursing the research and innovation tax in accordance with the provisions of this Act. 3 is to establish the Nigeria Research and Innovation Trust Fund Board of Trustees, which shall be responsible for the management of the Nigeria Research and Innovation Trust Fund in accordance with the provisions of this Act. And finally, to promote the commercialization of research undertakings in Nigeria and a knowledge-based economy for sustained national competitiveness. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, innovation is all about wealth creation, and it costs money. On the average, our neighbors, India, China, South Africa, spend 0.82%, 2%, and 0.8% of their GDP on research and development, whereas Nigeria spends 0.2%. In 2014, India, China, and South Africa filed 12,040, 801,135, and 802 patents, respectively. Nigeria filed 50. And even these 50 patents are non-investigative, as is the case in other countries. In other countries, the Patent Office examines the patent for novelty. In Nigeria, such is not the case. Only documentation adequacy is necessary to file a patent. One of the key functions of this proposed fund is to reverse these uncompetitive state of affairs, not just to spend more money on research, but rather to selectively fund research that will create wealth in collaboration with the private sector. This bill seeks to tax our industry a percentage innovation tax and use that fund to support research findings that have commercial viability. A critical component of this bill is that all the projects to be funded must have an industry commitment. In other words, if industry does not believe and invest in the project, there will be no need to fund it. Hence, the tax on the firms is justified as the funds is dedicated to funding innovation with commercial potential. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, TET Fund is focused on research funding and infrastructure for tertiary education. But the research fund that's being proposed will be focused on commercializing the products of research, provided local industry is willing to support the innovation. This fund begins from where TET Fund stops, so that we can more easily see the quality of creativity in our private and public research institutions. Mr. Speaker, Nigeria has not been able to bridge the link between our research and our industries. Every year we pass bills allocating money to universities and research institutions for research. Though these monies are still not enough, the reason why we are not seeing results is because the linkage between research and industry is a discipline we have not given sufficient attention to. Another key component of this fund is that it will create structures like a national research database and a transnational doctoral training centers focused on developing answers to our unique challenges and reversing the brain drain that happens when we send our children abroad for further studies. It will also support a national intellectual property management support office and ensure that research institutions and universities make money from the commercialization of their research. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, it is my conviction that within 10 years of implementing this fund, our most innovative universities will be making more money from the commercialization of their intellectual property than from government allocation, as is found all over the world. This is in line with our stated legislative agenda of increasing national productivity. Mr. Speaker, most respected honorable colleagues, let me conclude this with a rather sad story for us. 20 years ago, a drug for the treatment of sickle cell was discovered in one of our research institutions, the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development in particular. The institute could not find a local company to work with and had to work with a firm from the United States. The United States firm got the license to sell the drug, and in 2006, the CEO of the firm that got the license was awarded the MarketWatch Reader's Choice CEO of the Year in the USA, beating Steve Jobs and Warren Buffett. Note that this was based on a herbal drug discovered here in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, 20 years later, this drug is still effective, but is no longer in the market due to management and intellectual property issues. The more than 3 million sickle cell Nigerians are dying on a daily basis, and it appears that we are handicapped, whereas we are not. If we could develop such a drug 20 years ago, honorable colleagues, imagine what our scientists can do today. I urge us all to please vote for this bill, to vote for an innovative and more competitive Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless you.
Honorable Nkiruka.